Welcome to Will Read. My name is Will. Today I'm reading The Rag and Bone Shop of the Heart, Poems for Men, by Robert Bly, James Hillman, and Michael Meade. Fathers' prayers for sons and daughters, protecting till the danger past with human love. William Butler Yeats. We call them prayers because each poem carries some blessing, even if hidden. We call them daughters and sons because they are being held and protected, because a blessing is trying to form around them. Not all the writers are parents through births, but all are doing that awkward praying that mothers and fathers a child into life. What would you tell your child? Asks William Stafford in the first poem. Father and daughter are staring at the storming ocean from a dune. The child wants to know, standing in the mutual gaze over oceans, over time. How far could you swim, Daddy, in such a storm? How far will the father go for the child? How far does my father's heart reach out into the world? The child is 7 and needs to hear an emotional truth spoken, needs to hear the shape of the father's heart. The world has become an absolute vista, and her father has pulled her up to view the great storms of life. Now her question pulls him into the wave-torn sea. In that moment he knows the answer in his heart. As far as was needed, I said, and as I talked, I swam. The blessing is partly in the father's capacity to hear the real question, partly in the heart willingness of his answer. But the conversation could go very differently. On another day, the father might not hear the child's true question, or might lack an answer. In a story by Lee Young Lee, a son asks his father for a new story, and the father can't come up with one. An entire history of father and son is lived out in that moment. Are you a god? The man screams, that I sit mute before you? Am I a god that I should never disappoint? No matter what, the son will live out his story, and short or long it will include disappointment with his father. It will include emptiness within which the father's love will pray. The father's story has silences in it. That's where the prayers rise from. Because of the great gloom that is in my mind, I have walked and prayed for this young child an hour, and heard the sea wind scream upon the tower. So says Yeats in that pacing prayer all parents know. It's as if he were walking with James Joyce and canting against the threatening seas of life. For Joyce is saying of his son, from whining wind and colder gray sea I wrap him warm. Around us fear descending, darkness of fear above, and in my heart how deep unending ache of love. I would stop it there, the father's arm around his warm, his voice dispelling fears. But a deeper voice speaks in these fathers' prayers, when the fears come fully down and the crazy pier stakes groan, when fate takes the child's life before the father's own. Oh, could I lose all father now, says Ben Jonson. And David Ray in the 3rd month after his son's death says how the poet and family will pray. The tears pour down as I think how much he wanted to be a man. It's our knowledge of death that makes us pray. Every path a child takes looks precarious to the parent's eye, and it is, and precarious is an old word that means full of prayers. The dangers that attend the birth of each child draw prayers and ritual acts from mothers and fathers. Women pray while breathing through labor. A father-to-be rhythmically wraps and unwraps a strip of cloth or string. Throughout history, the fathers assisted the birthing ritually, symbolically, physically. Haki Madhubuti invites them to it again in Men and Birth. Welcome to new seasons of wisdom, to urging life onward quietly and magnificently. The father's hands unwinding cloth mimics ancient rituals of unbinding everything tied up in the vicinity of the birth so the infant is not caught in the womb. It is the work of the father, as Haki says, that unlocks cultural strangulation and begins the blessing of his child with smiles, occasional tears, and undying commitment. In Changing Diapers, Gary Snyder urges life and the noble intensity of the child onward. He wipes away cultural and historical differences and wraps himself and his son into what is brave in all men. No trouble, friend. You and me and Geronimo are men. The poems we've included aren't formulas or standards for prayer. Rather, they are instinctive, intuitive calls to a third area that is neither parent nor child. They call on earth, animals, and ancient images, as James Joyce calls on the wildness hidden in the rose to sustain a daughter born to frailness. They are stories that bring something that is not of the parent next to the child. The blessing requires something of the other worlds, or else it may miss the delicate accuracy of anointing a life, and the father cannot himself be in the position of the child, nor caught in his own inner child if he is to bless. The one who prays must give the space of the child up, or else a swamp of sentimentality will come in. If there is no bear or king or temple involved, the ritual of blessing will stop, and a need of the parent or a moral lesson will rush into the gap. As William Stafford tells it in a story that could be true, the child that needs prayer and blessing is already standing in the robberies of the rain. At the moment of danger, the real mother died, the father is lost, and no one knows the child's name. The one who would pray must, for a moment, know the child's true name. MJM.